What is going on, guys? My name is Tubby Emo. We're going to talk WWE Superstar Shakeup that's happening on Monday Night Raw. Now, I've seen rumors all over the internet talking about who could possibly get traded, and some of the big names right off of the bat are New Day, possibly to SmackDown, AJ Styles back to Raw to reunite with the club, maybe the club coming over to SmackDown and join him, Alexa Bliss swapping for Charlotte, among others. But I'm going to break down a little bit about why I think some superstars could go to a certain show, why they would switch, who it would benefit, and actually talk a little bit more about the swaps versus just, I think he would be cool on Raw. I think he would be cool on SmackDown. And I'm going to start off by saying this one. This is going to be a little bit of a hot take. I want Sami Zayn to stay on Monday Night Raw. Storyline-wise, Sami Zayn was put in a position that he could have done so much. Sami getting put down. He got elevated with Roman and Seth between him. I thought they could go the best friends route, and eventually he just got put in the Battle Royale. I was let down by that. So the land of opportunity going over to SmackDown would make 100% sense, and especially if Nakamura is on SmackDown. Just imagine at the pay-per-view, it's Nakamura versus Sami Zayn for Payback. Right? Likewise, Payback is a Raw pay-per-view. What if Sami Zayn is on Monday Night Raw and Nakamura is not actually a SmackDown superstar? Think about it. Dash and Dawson debuted on Raw, and on SmackDown it was Ty Dillinger and Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, I can see Ty Dillinger fitting in on SmackDown, and I 100% can see Nakamura filling in for John Cena. The pop he got was huge. And right now, Vince is, according to rumors, all over the place. They're flip-flopping left and right about who's possibly going to end up on what show. So the thing that was really interesting to me was if you were going to have a guy on a show, and with the brand split, they don't appear on other people's shows. They haven't all year. I thought they might do some crossover. No, they did Raw, SmackDown. You did not appear on both shows unless it was 205 Live and Cruiserweights, where you would be in the dark or afterwards on 205 Live. So the big thing here is if you knew Nakamura was going to end up on Raw, you want him to get a SmackDown appearance, what better way than to have him debut on SmackDown? But the problem with that is SmackDown fans already pop for Nakamura, but those SmackDown fans are people that flew from all over the world. The thing that I worry about compared to Raw versus SmackDown is SmackDown still runs smaller towns. Now, they've gotten bigger, but for the most part, I'm thinking like, I tweeted out, like, what happens in Corpus Christi, Texas? Are they going to know Nakamura, and are they going to care? And that's the thing that scares me the most right now. If you're looking at the two shows, opportunity-wise, Nakamura would have a huge chance to be a main eventer right off of the bat on SmackDown. But they would be shorter matches because SmackDown, boom, 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 you've got to get in as many matches as you can because it's kind of the cooler, hipper son than Raw. But on Raw, if they need him to go half an hour like a Daniel Bryan role, like think when Daniel Bryan got super over, when Daniel Bryan was wrestling 1, 2, 3 matches a night, when Daniel Bryan was being the workhorse of Monday Night Raw. A workhorse like Shinsuke on Raw to be able to do those long epic matches to help fill 3 hours could be huge. So I want Nakamura to stay on SmackDown. I think it would be great if Sami Zayn went over and they eventually the one time I would allow them to reheat the rivalry because there was a match where they just kind of got thrown together. There was no preparation. Now Sami Zayn knows what he's in for, so it would be great to have them on the same show, but Payback would be on Raw. Now, let's skip Nakamura and Sami Zayn for a little bit. Let's go to talk about Charlotte and Alexa Bliss in the women's division on Raw and SmackDown. Raw clearly has the better division. And what I mean by that is SmackDown has got Becky Lynch, they've got Alexa Bliss, they've got Mickie James, they've got Carmella. But the problem that they have was all year the storyline was Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch because Naomi got hurt, so they went back and kind of refueled it. Then Naomi had to drop her title, and she eventually won it back, which is huge because, like I said, Naomi dropping the title, having to be forced to give it up, got her more over than she was at the time. But the other issue is, who do you switch up? Charlotte, Sasha, and Bayley have been feuding for so long. Everybody has gotten sick of seeing Charlotte versus Sasha Banks constantly. So do you move Sasha, which is an idea that's been gaining a lot of traction recently? Hey, have Sasha come over to SmackDown. It would be huge. She could be, like when I actually think of Eddie Guerrero, like she could be the female super. She could like lead the show, and then you could do Sasha versus Becky Lynch. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do. The other opportunity, and this is the one that I think is more possible, and that is putting Nia Jax on SmackDown. Now, hear me out, and let me talk about this, why I think Nia Jax on SmackDown could actually be a good thing. So SmackDown has primarily had title matches and then maybe Nikki Bella in the undercard matches, or they really haven't gotten their chance to shine. Like Mickie James had a match, but I mean, other than that, with Becky Lynch, but they really haven't had those big matches, right? They haven't had the ability, like Raw has got Dana Brooke, they've got Nia Jax, they've got Sasha, they've got Charlotte, they've got Bayley. They have women to work with. SmackDown has those women, and they're kind of the women of the future, Carmella, etc. But for right now, to get somebody as kind of a stepping stone to becoming, like, let's say Naomi's champion or Alexa Bliss's champion, having somebody like Nia Jax, who is a big, dominant destroyer, and she, like, if you want to go for the title, you kind of have to make your way through Nia. As Nia's trying to earn her opportunity, she gets put over there. She's being put up against other people. And she could kind of decimate that. On SmackDown, they need a huge heel when it comes to the roster. They need somebody, I think, that could be a dominant force in the women's division, besides, like, Nikki Bella and Natalya going after each other. Now, I still like Natty. I actually kind of dug Natty versus Nikki Bella. But for the most part, they need a big, bad heel. And I think Nia could fill that role. But I would still break up the trio of Charlotte, Sasha, and Bayley in some way, shape, or form. Then let's talk about within those women. Could any of the women from SmackDown move over to Monday Night Raw? And that's where the Alexa Bliss coming over to Raw would be huge for me. Because Alexa Bliss was a champion. She has a rematch. Look what happened. And now she could be like clutched away from the title that she had and put on a division. And you could have Bayley as the heel. So Alexa is replacing her. Whether she would get the title opportunity right now, I don't know. But I'm a huge Alexa Bliss fan. I have been since before she debuted. And I think she has huge potential. I think her losing and then kind of the temper tantrums, not like the Alicia Fox temper tantrums, which are just like temper tantrums, but Alexa Fox, see, I just did it. Alexa Bliss fits into her character with the Joker costumes, like Harley Quinn. She's that. She could do anything. She could just snap at any time. So losing her title, and then she just starts flailing on the ring and she refuses to leave. Stuff like that, I think, could definitely help her because everybody kind of knows. You can relate to somebody that's whiny, that doesn't get her way. Kind of like Stone Cold going against his boss. It's a little bit more relatable. Kind of like Bayley is, the female John Cena, to be able to overcome the girlhood dream, all that. So if I was going to switch, I would like Alexa Bliss on Raw. I think because she can do more with SmackDown, and especially getting put against the high-quality talent on Raw could make a huge dent and do some great stuff. If they were coming from Raw to SmackDown, though, I think Nia would be a good addition, and then with somebody like Charlotte. So having Charlotte and Nia, I still want Charlotte and Nia to team up, or I wanted Nia to be with somebody. Like, secretly Bayley and Nia were working together the whole time. Something like some Russo-esque swerve, so to speak. So those are kind of my thoughts on the women's division. If I'm going to move somebody, maybe Dana Brooke can go over. I don't think that would be too huge of a move. Because when you look at the women's division between Natalya and everybody, and with Naomi being champion, I think you want some big name heels over on the show. So maybe somebody like a Charlotte or Nia Jax, definitely. Then let's talk about guys that really aren't being utilized on their respective shows. And right now, Jason Jordan and Chad Gable are not being utilized properly. I don't know why we didn't get Usos versus... Well, now that we know the WrestleMania ran 5 hours, I kind of get it now. We were complaining for why there wasn't a tag match, but look how late the show ran. Now it kind of makes sense after the fact, but they definitely could have had it in. You have Dash and Dawson on Raw. You have tag teams on SmackDown like Fandango and Breezango that aren't really doing Tyler Breeze and Fandango. That aren't really, they kind of get over a little bit. I could definitely see him throwing in like Ty Dillinger, as crazy as that sounds. and helping out. You have Rhino and Heath Slater. The SmackDown Tag Team division has kind of been a joke for what I was hoping for. I've liked what the Usos have done, and I liked what American Alpha had did, because SmackDown is that show like Raw, and like Triple H had said a long time ago that you come on when you need to be on TV. AA is already over, so you use that time to put over other teams. That's how you can kind of help out. That's how you can kind of do your thing. So the Usos, would they come back over to Monday Night Raw? And I'd say no. I say you keep them there because you need a dominant heel tag team, unless you swap for somebody like Dash and Dawson, which I think could be huge. But I don't see the champion switching. But could American Alpha switch? Because if American Alpha switched, and then you have American Alpha switches over and the club comes over to SmackDown, so it's kind of an even up trade, right? You're kind of doing faces for heels, which would reinvigorate the division a little bit. So you could have guys like Rhino and Heath Slater go up against like Luke and Carl, and they could decimate them. They could work their way up the ranks till they ultimately, the Usos lose to somebody, and then you could have the club regain their titles. You could do something like that. So when I'm thinking about superstar swaps, I'm trying to think for the whole year, right? I am trying to think from now until when the split actually happens, until next year when the next superstar shakeup happens. How can they long play it? And that's kind of where I see. Likewise, guys like Rusev that have not been used on TV definitely could use the switch up. Sheamus and Cesaro, big fans, getting that title opportunity. Maybe we see a superstar shakeup, especially if you're promised a title match and then you get swapped. That could cause some huge resentment, like, hey, I don't know what you want me to do. And then they show up between Sheamus and Cesaro show up on SmackDown, and they go, wait a minute, what? Yeah, we were the number one contenders. We were going to face the champions. Can we get our match? And they're like, hey, man, this is the land of opportunity. You just joined us. You got to work your way up, and Sheamus and Cesaro can kind of do that on the division to swap for American Alpha. So I could see Sheamus and Cesaro swapping for AA if I was going to do a straight-up face swap. Rusev, I think, could be used over on SmackDown. You could have him as the heel guy because right now you are lacking big heels on SmackDown. And I'll be honest with you, I want to see Rusev versus Nakamura. That's just me. I don't know if anybody else has had that inclination. I know because there's too many dream matches for Nakamura to have. I think Rusev versus Nakamura would be cool. We talked about Sami Zayn a little bit, but for the big trades, if you look at who should actually switch, should the New Day go over? Think about the New Day. If the New Day go over, then you have the New Day. You still have the Ascension. You have Breeze, Zongo. You have AA. You have some need to change a little bit. I think the New Day would be cool on SmackDown, but I definitely think on a 3-hour Raw, the New Day are too much of a commodity for time filler to give them up. I would not be opposed to them going to SmackDown, especially to try to help out the division and see their shenanigans. But when you're trying to book a 3-hour show, the New Day fill a lot of that role, and they're already over, and the crowd loves them. Bringing them over to SmackDown, I worry a little bit about them being there and then not being enough time, because look at how much the tag teams already aren't getting the exposure they need now, and then you bring over a big team like New Day, and they're going to take away a lot of that spotlight. So if I was going to swap, I would probably do the club for a more heelish tag team to dominate the lower-end teams. The club could be used to kind of help put over some other teams and kind of work the division up that way. But here's the thing that I want to keep in mind. All these switches really only matter if Vince is confident who's going to do what, if you're going one place or another. If you send somebody over to SmackDown and they kind of flop, like I said, when you think about cities, Raw and SmackDown, I worry about some of these superstars going to smaller towns and not getting those reactions. I worry about that, but SD Live is a popping show. They haven't really had any problems. I think they've piped in a little bit, but for the most part, I am a little nervous about guys like Nakamura on SmackDown. I think if the show takes off and it's a big deal, even more after the swap, I'm seeing a lot of rumors of people saying, well, what happens if they basically switch them or they steal all their assets away from SmackDown Live? They take everybody away. They basically make it so what you are doing is like from the past brand splits. You swiped away all their talent because Vince McMahon cannot stand SmackDown Live. They cannot let it happen. And that worries me a little bit because I don't think that's the case. I think Raw and SmackDown are on equal playing fields, and it does not make sense to swipe that away. To have that attitude from back in the day, to do that does not work. So I want to know what you guys think of the brands, but who do you think is possibly going where? Where do you see it potentially ending up? Because for me, there's a lot of different ways they can go, but I want them to make this show for a whole year. That's the way I look at it. I'm not just looking at it as, I want a dream match between Nakamura and this guy, because what happens when that guy is done with that? What more can they do? The club coming over with AJ. AJ is too much of a commodity, I think. He's the champ that runs the camp. He is the lead guy on SmackDown. So to pry him away from that show, I think would be one of the worst things they could do. Unless the club was to become this dominant thing that we all know and we all love. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys want to see. And until next time, it's your boy W, and we will see you all later.